So, this is it. Who out of Callum Cripps and Lewis Manley is going to be the 2022-23 Simply Race Touring Car Champion? We're going to find out over the next couple of hours. My name's Dan McCalla and welcome to the Brands Hatch Grand Prix Circuit, the first of the final 3 races of this season. We have an interloper today, Luke Bennett. Very, very accomplished sim driver who's on pole position just after a stunning lap from Adam Christopher, our newly crowned Alpine Cup champion, who joins him on the front row. Lewis Manley starts third. He's got 18 points to make up on Callum Cripps in the championship. Cripps starts fifth with Martin Buchan, who won one of the Alpine races early in between them. We then have Ben Bennyworth, John Dean Smith, Chris Wilson, who's down as Genevieve Wilson on the timing. Many congratulations to him in honour of the birth of his new baby daughter, who arrived just after the last round at Knock Hill. And then Michael Tyler and Max Spooner completing our grid of 10 cars. So, we'll try and keep you up to date with the points. There's also a good battle between Ben Bennyworth and Adam Christopher for third in the championship. We'll keep tabs as well on that one, although Ben Bennyworth has got points to drop. But it's Cripps and Manley, third and fifth on the grid, we're looking at in terms of the championship race here. The race starts now, 15 laps of Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Luke Bennett has got away pretty well, but Adam Christopher started well alongside. He's going to have to try and go around the outside into paddock. Oh no, Christopher's lost it. Adam Christopher's gone straight off into the gravel. It's now Lewis Manley up into second. Callum Cripps had a good start and he's got up into third. Manley trying around the outside. Big slide from the Toyota. And Bennett manages to hang on for the time being. So, we've got Bennett, then Manley, then Cripps. Bennyworth is up to 4th. Adam Christopher's just trying to hold off Chris Wilson for 5th place at the moment. Buchan's back to 7th, and it's Dean Smith, Spooner, and Tyler. Onto the GP loop for the first time. Down Pilgrim's Drive, under the bridge, and then rising up towards Hawthorne. We're looking at Adam Christopher and Chris Wilson. 5th, 5th, and 6th. Big move up the inside from Chris Wilson into Hawthorne. There's contact! Adam Christopher slams that door shut. I don't think he wanted to do it that way. Chris Wilson's lost out and it's allowed Martin Buchan to come back through and move up into 6th place, go through Westfield. A little bit wide, he's going to fight back as Chris Wilson in the 68 car and manages to retake that place. So lots of action there, but no long-term changes of position. Back towards the front of the field. Luke Bennett establishing a bit of a lead. Lewis Manley in second. Callum Cripps in third, which means at the moment Manley will only pull back 2 points of that 18-point deficit. A solid weekend for Callum Cripps. Certainly 3 podiums would definitely be enough for him to win the championship. They complete lap 1 out of 15. Bennett leads by 1.1 seconds. Lewis Manley is second. Then Cripps, Bennyworth, Christopher, Wilson, Buchan, Dean Smith, and then Max Spooner and Michael Tyler bringing up the rear in 10th spot. Through Druids. Good bit of recovery work here from Adam Christopher. He's back onto the rear of Ben Bennyworth. They've just had their own title fight in the Alpines. Ben Bennyworth winning race 2, but with 2 podiums. Christopher managing to get the job done and clinch that title. He put in a barnstorming lap in the qualifying session for this touring car race a little bit earlier on, and it took a very good lap from Luke Bennett right at the end to pip him by just 0.05 of a second. Battle for third, though, developing now between Cripps and Bennyworth. They come up to Hawthorne. Cripps has to go a little bit defensive. He'll take an earlier apex. Bennyworth will get a better run, but a bit too good of a run because he's put his left-hand wheels onto the grass. He's not able to line anything up just yet on the defending champion. Cripps in a little bit of a difficult situation because obviously he'll want to defend and hold on to the place and the points, but he doesn't want to risk an accident and losing lots. But it's nose to tail now. Cripps, Bennyworth and Christopher, 3rd, 4th and 5th. They're going to clear away for the second time, and all over Ben Bennyworth is on Callum Cripps. Ben Bennyworth is one of 2 drivers in this race who is on the soft option tyre. Max Spooner is the other. And Bennyworth really trying to make that performance count, but he can't get past the Brabham car just yet. He's got a good run up the hill though. Oh, Callum Cripps, I don't think can get the door shut. And now Bennyworth got his opportunity into Druids. Cripps leaves him just enough through, but he's forced out wide. He'll want to try and keep the left-hand line to have a go into Graham Hill Bend, but he can't do it. Bennyworth up to 3rd. And Cripps has now got Alan Christopher. That's another 2 points going down the road for Callum Cripps, and it could be 2 more if Adam Christopher gets past him. And just ever so slightly, the championship battle coming towards Lewis Manley. As it stands, a gap of 18 will come down to 14. towards Hawthorn for the third time. Luke Bennett is just easing out his lead on Lewis Manley. The gap at the end of the last lap was 1.3 seconds. It was up to 2.3 now, I should say, as a timing screen update. Luke Bennett very much setting the pace as you'd expect. He's done a 28.445. That's 0.05 of a second quicker than his pole position time. So Luke Bennett in the BMW really setting the pace here on his guest appearance at the end of the season. We go on. End of lap 3. Bennett, Manley, the gap 2.8. Bennyworth, Cripps now having to defend from Adam Christopher. Christopher's gone wide. Christopher's into the gravel for the second time at Paddock Hill Bend. That's allowing Chris Wilson back into play and Martin Buchan as well. And Christopher is through. With all the males in action, Adam Christopher is through on Callum Cripps up to 4th place, and that's another 2 points down the road for Callum Cripps. 18 would become 12 as it stands. Those results replicated in the last 2 races would end up with a tie. So the championship situation is still very much open, very much fluid. We are on lap 5 out of 15. Oh, car coming to the pit. Martin Buchan is pitting. Don't know if he's got a technical problem or what's happened, but Martin Buchan, winner of Alpine race earlier, has come down the pit lane. Is it a penalty? Is it a drive-through, perhaps? Just having a look. I've got to see it on your cameras. We'll keep you updated what's going on. He was in 7th place. And he's come straight through, so although we might have missed it, it looks as if Martin Buchan has been given a drive-through penalty, and he will rejoin at the back of the field. So, I apologise, we're on to lap 5 now. Luke Bennett is now leading by 4.5 seconds. Then Bennyworth, Christopher, there is Cripps in 5th. Then Wilson, Dean Smith, Spooner, Tyler and Buchan. A very, very high quality field here. As Luke Bennett continues to stretch out his lead. Just confirmation from the race directors that Martin Buchan was given a drive penalty. It was a jump start, which obviously, as you've seen at the end of the last lap, he has now served. So Callum Cripps, maybe not the dominance that we saw from him earlier in the season, such as like Brands Hatch Indy when he took a clean sweep of all 3 races. Had 2 very near rolls in practice and qualifying, particularly struggling around sort of Dingle Dell and Sheen Curve part of the circuit. But the championship very much in the balance there. He really does need every point he can get. We go on to lap 6 of 15. Looking at the lap times last time round, Bennett did a 28.2, fast off the race so far. Manley a 29.3. Bennett, Manley, Bennyworth, Christopher, Cripps, Wilson, Dean Smith, Spooner, Tyler and Buchan after the drive-through.
If I buy it, it's going to lag. Potentially. Have to just use this one for this race.
Adam Christopher in 5th place, bit of apologise. And then Christopher and then Bennyworth further ahead in 4th and 3rd respectively. Onto the brakes down into Sterling's. Campbell works with you. It's a much quicker corner than it looks. Then blasting back through the trees, under the bridge, back into clearways past the Motorsport Vision Centre and up towards the line to complete lap 6. Luke Bennett has already completed it. His lead is now up to 5 seconds over Lewis Manley. Then Bennyworth, Christopher, Cripps and Wilson, hardly anything between them. And Chris Wilson's now all over the back of Callum Cripps. Not close enough to make a move this time.
Save it for now and just, I'll get that one sorted for race 2.
Back down the hill. Graham Hill bend. Through the left-hander. On the bottom straight. A little bit kicking up a dust there from Cripps. Then through Surtees, very late apex. And then back onto the GP loop. So the race settling into a nice rhythm now. Ben Bennyworth in 3rd place, making good, having started 6th. He was a bit disappointed with his qualifying, but he's making good use of the soft tyre. So what a situation really are brewing in the championship. So Lewis Manley on average needs to take 6 points a race out of Callum Cripps, and at the moment he's taking in this race exactly 6 out of him. Really is battling up to a potentially a race 3 title decider. What an incredible prospect that would be later on this afternoon here at Brands Hatch. So we're coming up to, we're just past the halfway point of the race now because Luke Bennett has completed lap 8. His lead is up to 5.8 seconds. And Bennyworth in getting increasing attention from Adam Christopher behind in the battle for 3rd. Adam Christopher exuding positivity here today. After getting that championship win sorted with 2 podiums in the Alpine races. Absolutely delighted with his qualifying lap. Almost was enough to get pole position. He very briefly thought he had done enough to get pole. And he really has improved with his form in the Touring Car Championship as the season's gone on. He's done a really, really good job, and it is between him and Bennyworth for 3rd place in the championship. Once drop scores are taken into consideration on Bennyworth's account, at the moment Bennyworth's only 3 points ahead. So yeah, this is a battle for 3rd place in microcosm in the race, but also one for 3rd in the overall points. Mistake from Bennyworth. I wonder if those soft tyres may just about be starting to go off. We go on board with Adam Christopher. And they do, I'm just looking at the lap times, if they're actually, I'm wondering if they're starting to reel in Lewis Manley slightly. Bennyworth's taken 4/10 out of Manley in the first 2 sectors of this lap. We know that, well, Lewis Manley's a supremely quick driver, sometimes does suffer with a bit of tyre wear towards the end of the race. Lap times last time round a 30.0 for Manley, a 29.6 for Bennyworth. The gap is just over 1 second. We've still got 7 laps to go, so plenty of time here for these two to get themselves onto the podium. And Callum Cripps will be looking into the distance, seeing that going ahead of him and rubbing his hands and hoping that Ben Bennyworth and Adam Christopher can do him a favour and take a couple of points off of Lewis Manley. Luke Bennett still running in the 28, so I don't have to worry about him too much. He's now 7.5 seconds in front. But this battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th and everything could have some quite major implications in terms of what happens in the points race. We're on lap 9 out of 15. We're on board with Callum Cripps, so looking ahead to Manley and Bennyworth and Christopher. And I think we'll see the race develop over the last few laps. It's going to come down, I think, with tyre wear with Manley and then Bennyworth on the soft tyre, I think, in particular. Will probably Adam Christopher be the main prospect? Will he be able to work his way through and get himself onto the podium for, if you count the Alpines, for the 3rd time today? Lap times just coming to the line now, the 2nd and 3rd place drivers. Lap times 29.7 for Manley, 29.4 for Ben Bennyworth. And the gap is down to less than a second. So lap 10. Bennyworth is still gradually reeling in Manley, and Callum Cripps is coming back into play a bit more here. He's only a second behind Adam Christopher. There was a bit of dust there. I think Ben Bennyworth made a bit of a mistake there. I did wonder if he'd gone off. He is still there, but Adam Christopher's now right on his tail again. I think there was an error there. I think from Ben Bennyworth coming through Westfield. So about the third, very much on again. 5 laps to go. Luke Bennett already on to lap 11. His lead over Lewis Manley now is nearly 10 seconds. Bennett still lapping in the mid-28s. Manley did a 29.8 last time round, which just is no negative reflection on Lewis Manley at all. It just goes down to what an accomplished driver Luke Bennett is. And we saw Adam Christopher having a look there into Druitt at Ben Bennyworth and was unable to get it done. Bennyworth taking a nice defensive line to hold on to third place for the time being. And look how much closer Cripps has been able to get to Adam Christopher now. Again, those extras, 20, 17, 15, 13 and 11 for the top 5. So for Callum Cripps, that's 2 points he's looking at the back bumper of Adam Christopher there. They could prove to be important when we come to do the final tallies later on this afternoon. 4.5 laps of this race remain. Down Dingledale, back up the hill into Sheen Curve, placing the old Dingledale chicane, named after, of course, the late great Barry Sheen, through Stirlings. Up to the line, 4 to go. That time round, Manley 29.9, Bennyworth 29.6, Christopher 30 dead, Cripps 29.8. Not much between them, and Manley with a buffer of about 1.4 seconds on Ben Bennyworth. So if he can look after his tyres, he should be okay to get a good solid second place and 17 points out of this. With Callum Cripps at the moment only on for 11. Back through Graham Hill onto the bottom straight. Lap 12 out of 15. One small change to bring you further down the field. I think there might have been an incident for Michael Tyler because he's dropped well back and it's allowed Martin Buchan after that drive through to move back up into 9th place. But Michael Tyler's 16 seconds behind Martin Buchan, so I think that might have been an incident on his part. Buchan is lapping very, very quickly and he's only less than 6 seconds behind Max Spooner, so there's a possibility, particularly with Max being on the soft tyre as well, that Buchan may be able to get back up into P8 for the end of the race. It's going to be quite close, but he might just about have time depending on whether Max Spooner makes any mistakes or not. I think he might need one error from Max Spooner, I think Martin Buchan, to be able to have a go against P8. Luke Bennett now more than 11 seconds to the good. He's already finished lap 12. Second, third, fourth and fifth coming to clearways. Great standard of driving in this race. Everyone seems to be really good, consistent runs together. We've not really seen any big mistakes, probably apart from Adam Christopher at the very first corner, but since the first lap, everyone's kind of got nicely settled, I think. 3 laps to go. The order remains Bennett, Manley, Bennyworth, Christopher, right on the back bumper again now. Cripps, Wilson, Dean Smith, Spooner, Buchan, Tyler. Not the most wham-bam action in terms of touring car races I think we've ever seen, but we've got 2 more to come. We've got the reverse grid to look forward to as well. And given the parameters, it's a good chance it will be a full reverse grid as well, only having 10 cars today. 2.5 laps to go. There is Lewis Manley in second place. Looking for a decent haul of points. Still holding on to a 1.3 second advantage over Ben Bennyworth in third. We have seen a lot of races this season where, as Manley's tyres are starting to struggle, he has been caught quite a bit towards the end of the race, but he seems to be holding out pretty well so far in this one, remembering that Ben Bennyworth is on the soft tyre for this race. very, very big haul of points for Lewis. He decided to skip Knock Hill. Didn't fancy the long journey north, so he didn't score any points for that one. That counts as his drop score. He comes in with 222 compared to Callum Cripps' 240. Cripps having, of course, dropped Alton Park. Christopher's made a little bit of an error. He's fallen back a bit there with 2 laps to go. And he's now actually slightly closer, I think, to Callum Cripps than he is to Ben Bennyworth ahead of him. We go on to the penultimate lap of the race. He's the only real battle to look forward to. And I think, as we said a couple of laps ago, I think Martin Buchan is going to be able to catch Max Spooner. He took 2.5 seconds out of him on the last lap, and he's within 2 seconds now. So I think there is a chance, and we're going to go. I think here we go. We're on board with Martin Buchan here, going into Druids, looking ahead to a wayward Max Spooner there. Spooner is on the soft tyre, so that could be a tyre wear issue in terms of why he's struggling. With, for these guys, about 1 lap and 3/4 of race 1 to go. Oh, and an offer, or just going to go back to the battle for 2nd and 3rd, because Ben Bennyworth has just put it onto the grass at Westfield. There's the picture in pictures, you can see what's going on. Not resulting in a change in position. But you can see on the onboard we've got here with Martin Buchan, he is visibly closing back. Spooner really struggling to get down to those apexes, so I think the soft tyre really not working for him late in the race. You can see he's taking a couple of tenths out of him every corner now. And I think the Scotsman smelling blood as he tried to recover some positions after that jump start. The leaders now moving on to their final lap. Luke Bennett 14 seconds to the good. Manley still has 1 second on Bennyworth, and then it's Christopher and Cripps just behind. Keep an eye on that for you. They're on to their final lap. Buchan, meanwhile, as you can see here, lining up Max Spooner. Might have to go wide and dive to the inside. I'm not sure Max Spooner's going to fight this too hard. Even if I'm not sure he could. I mean, see how the car washes out wide there. That definitely looks like a lot of tyre degradation on the soft tyre there for Spooner. And Max Buchan recovers to 8th place. So let's have a look at that battle. See if he's getting nice and close on this last lap. Onto the GP loop with half a lap to go. Luke Bennett's got the win in the bag, but what's going to happen in the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th? Here is Adam Christopher right on the back of Ben Bennyworth. But where, this is as close as he's been all race, where is he going to be able to make the move? He's got, what, 4 or 5 corners left. They're going to come through Westfield, and that leaves Machine Curve, Stirling and Clearways. We're on board with Adam Christopher now. Can he nab that last spot on the podium? A 3rd podium of the day. Makes up a lot under braking. Stirling, maybe not enough of the braking zone for a lunge up the inside. He might have to try and do it. It might be a photo finish. They're closing up to Lewis Manley. It's not going to be enough. Luke Bennett is going to win the race. In fact, he's already crossed the line. He's going to win this by about 15 seconds. Lewis Manley's going to get big points to challenge for 2nd. But who is going to get 3rd? Is it going to be Bennyworth? I don't think Adam Christopher's going to be able to get the run on him. It's going to be good points for Lewis Manley in 2nd. Bennyworth 3rd. Then Adam Christopher. Callum Cripps can only manage 5th. His championship lead is cut from 18 points to 12 with 2 more races still to come. And then later on, here's Chris Wilson. He was running with the guys in front of the early stage. Eventually fell back, and he's finished in 6th place. There is John Dean Smith, who's going to come home 7th. Then it'll be Martin Buchan in 8th, recovering from his drive-through, and then it'll be Max Spooner and Michael Tyler, the last 2 finishers. So, not a dramatic race, it has to be said, but a very interesting one in the context of the championship race. Maximum points and the 20 points, and a win on his first appearance of the season for Luke Bennett in the BMW there. The 2nd place for Lewis Manley means with 2 races to go, he's only 12 points behind. We'll be back with you very shortly for race 2. Welcome back to Brands Hatch, everyone. It's the penultimate race of the 2022-23 Simply Race Touring Car Championship, race 2 here at Brands Hatch Grand Prix. We are getting ready to go. We have a slightly smaller field we had in race 1. Unfortunately, for personal reasons, John Dean Smith has had to withdraw, so we're down to 9 cars. And barring his absence, the starting order is the same as the finishing order for race 1. So Luke Bennett, who dominated in the BMW, he will start from pole position. Lewis Manley is alongside him on the front row in a crucial race for his championship hopes. Ben Bennyworth and Adam Christopher, they share row 2. Adam Christopher is the only driver in this race who is on the soft tyre. Then Callum Cripps, the championship leader, will come to the points permutations in a moment. Chris Wilson alongside him on row 3. And then Martin Buchan, who hoping for a better run after he jumped the start in race 1 at serve drive through penalty, ahead of Max Spooner and Michael Tyler. So the championship could be decided in this race. And the situation actually is pretty simple because there's only 9 cars. Everyone's going to score at least 7 points in every race, so the difference between first and last is only 13 rather than 20. I'm not going to go through the whole explanation, but what I can tell you to make it nice and easy is that if Callum Cripps finishes ahead of Lewis Manley in this race, he will clinch the championship with a race to spare. If he doesn't, then it will go to a decider in a reverse grid race 3, and who knows what might happen in that one. So if Cripps finishes ahead of Manley in this race, then the championship is once again his with a race to spare. So Luke Bennett in that dominant BMW, well, we thought he'd be setting the pace in this final round, and he certainly proved it in race 1. A lap quicker than everybody else. A 15-lap race, and he won it by 15 seconds. It was a superb performance by the Verstappen Racing Esports driver as he brings the slightly depleted field of cars to the front of the grid. So once again, it's Bennett, Manley, Bennyworth, Christopher, Cripps, Wilson, Buchan, Spooner and Tyler in that order as they line up for race 2. Here we go then. Race 2 on finals day. Bennett and Manley on the front row. Cripps is in the top right hand corner of your screen is starting 5th. Is this the race he wins the championship perhaps? Very prompt start by Lewis Manley. He may actually be able to go all the way around the outside of Luke Bennett and take the lead. He's going to try. It's a big risk for Manley because he needs the points. They're side by side. Oh, big slide. Big slide indeed for Bennett. As they come up the hill towards Drew, they're still side by side. But I don't think Manley going to try and turn in. Oh, runs in. And Adam Christopher's gone straight on. Adam Christopher's gone straight on. I think something happened there. It might have been something mechanical. Completely disappeared from view. Something terrible happened there to Adam Christopher. Bennett still leading. I think it might have been something gone wrong the top speed with the pedal box. We'll try and chase that up later on. But bad news there for Adam Christopher. Bennett is leading. Then it's Manley, Bennyworth, Cripps, then Wilson, Buchan, Spooner and Tyler as they head onto the GP loop for the very first time. I have to say we heard a very sudden thud from our commentary position. Here at the Simply Race Centre, Adam Christopher's in the pod nearest our commentary box, and which is a very sudden thought that it might have been something pedal related. We hope that Adam is okay. I think I'm going to see he's coming through sector 1, so with a delay he has resumed at the back of the field, so he is still running, which is good. Meanwhile, Callum Cripps has got himself past Bennyworth. He's into 3rd place and he's right behind Lewis Manley, exactly where he wants and needs to be. If he can get past Lewis Manley, he's potentially on to win the championship in this race. But unsurprisingly, it is Luke Bennett who is going to lead across the line at the end of the first lap out of 15. His lead is going to be just over 2 seconds, I think. Going across the line that time, just under 2.1 seconds. Big move up the inside there from Chris Wilson. Huge slide. What an absolute tank slapper. But he manages to get the move done on Ben Bennyworth. As a result, that's a superb move by Chris Wilson. Absolutely full-scale sent it, and he's got him into 4th place. Bennyworth has gone off on the grass in the background as he tries to fight back coming out of Druids. Plenty of action to enjoy here in the early stages of race 2. There is Callum Cripps. He will take a 10-point lead into the finale if it stays as it is, with him in 3rd and Lewis Manley finishing 2nd. Down Pilgrim's Drop and up to Hawthorns for the 2nd time. race gradually settles into its rhythm. Adam Christopher, I can tell you, he is running in last place. He's not that far. He's 19 seconds off the lead after that brake issue at Druid, so he's 9 seconds on Michael Tyler, so he might well work his way through the field a little bit, but we'll keep tracking him, see how he gets on later on the race, our new Alpine Cup champion. Through clearways to complete lap 2. Then out front there's a 28.5. Here comes Manley, 28.7. Cripps 29.4, and it wasn't really one mistake, it's just Manley was just a good chunk quicker than Callum Cripps really throughout that lap. Then a gap of 1.3 seconds back to Wilson, then just behind him in the background there you can see Bennyworth, then Martin Buchan, who managed to get the start right this time. He said his just a big slip of the foot was what caused his jump start in race 1, but he made no mistake this time. And then a bit further out, Mark Spoon is just ahead of Michael Tyler, and then Adam Christopher on the recovery charge is going about 2 seconds a lap quicker than Spooner and Tyler ahead of him. So by about the midpoint of the race, he should be getting his name off the foot of the timing screen. Right-hander of Hawthorns. Derek into straight towards Westfield. There's Buchan. Up and down day for Martin Buchan after he won race 1 in the Alpines this morning. The field gets gradually more spaced out. This, to be honest, is probably the closest gap at the moment. It's just under a second between Cripps and Wilson and Bennyworth and Buchan. They're all fairly evenly spaced. About the same gap actually from Cripps forward to Manley as well. Looking at the lap times, all very similar. Lewis Manley 29.4, Cripps 29.3, Wilson 29.1. Bennyworth just went a bit wide there at Paddock Hill Bend, did a 29.3. To underline the point, Luke Bennett did a 28.1. I think that is the fastest lap we've seen all day. And he's going even quicker because he's just done another purple first second. He's already over 4 seconds to the good. It has to be said at the moment that they're all in the 20. The second fastest man on the track at the moment is Adam Christopher, trying on the recovery charge on a 28.6. Remember, he's the only car in this race running the soft tyre. And he's taking the full advantage with Michael Tyler in the 130s and Max Spooner in the 131s. Adam Christopher is now only less than 6 seconds behind Spooner and Tyler now. The two stablemates are actually running sort of line astern as they come through Westwood now, less than a second apart. So where do we think a move is most likely to come from? I would have said most likely at the moment it's going to come from north of the border. Barracuda car of Martin Buchan, sizing up Ben Bennyworth. Bennyworth's hopes of securing 5th in the championship and giving a big boost without Adam Christopher's mishap. As we head on to lap 5. Manley dipping into the 28th that time round. 28.9, whereas Cripp could only do a 29.3. Callum Cripps was telling me after race 1 that I think he'd be very happy actually in hindsight in what he told me that we got the start that he did, because he said with him being rear wheel drive, he does struggle to get the temperature into the tyres as quickly as his front wheel drive opposition, I should say. And he tends to come better later in the race. So the fact he's actually gone from 5th up to 3rd on lap 1, I'm sure is something in the context of the championship fight he'll be very, very pleased with. Lewis Manley has no room for error because one mistake and Cripps will be passed, and the championship will go to Callum Cripps once again. Come to the end of lap 5 out of 15. Bennett already across the line. He's leaned up to about 5 seconds. That time's up time. 29.5 for Manley, a bit slower. 29.1 for Cripps. 29.2 for Wilson. 29.2 for Bennyworth. 29.3 for Bucket. So probably a little bit of a mistake. I think maybe come through the middle sector there by Lewis Manley on that one. He still has an advantage, about 3/4 of a second over Callum Cripps in that fight between the championship contenders. Putting some wheels on the grass. I think it might be worth actually going towards having a look with Adam Christopher now, because he is closing in on Tyler and Spooner. In fact, there's his on board in the picture-in-picture, the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Michael Tyler's actually passed Max Spooner, I should say. He's just passed him on the start of that lap within the first sector. So Michael Tyler up to 7th, which I think it would be one of his best results. But they've got Adam Christopher looming increasingly large in their mirrors. He's within 1.3 seconds of Max Spooner now, so we may well see some moves there in the next lap or two. There is Adam Christopher, and you can see how much closer he is to Max Spooner's Quatermass car. Dust being kicked up by, I think, by Michael Tyler in particular. Coming through Sheen Curve and then Sterling's. Here they come through Clearways again. Completing lap 6, so 9 to go. On board with Adam Christopher. Oh, Max Spooner's got wide to the gravel, and I don't think Adam Christopher's going to need a second opportunity to make that move, and very easily gets it done and comes back into 8th place. And I wonder how long it's going to take him to dispatch of Michael Tyler. He may actually even be able to get it done by the end of this lap. Back onto the Cooper straight. Towards Surtees. They're blasting back out into the Kentwoods once again. I think Michael Tyler's made a mistake coming through Surtees there, because Adam Christopher, either that or he's on the hybrid, has just breezed past him. So he's dispatched those up to 7th place, and I think he's going to need a mistake to make up any more plays, because the next car is Martin Buchan, who is 12 seconds up the road. And here is Martin Buchan, who's as close as we've seen him to Ben Bennyworth in the fight for 5th spot. As we come towards the end of lap 7, so almost at the halfway mark. Yellow flag sector 2, and that is Max Spooner, who has gone off at Hawthorne. He'd already been passed by that drop to the back of the field, but again, he hopes to keep an open Michael Tyler, who's going to rely on a mistake now. So it's been a very difficult day for Max Spooner today. He didn't get the results he wanted in the Alpines, although he did still do enough to clinch 3rd place in that championship, which I know he's very happy with, but he's just not quite on his usual form today in either car, Max Spooner. So we're halfway through the race. Luke Bennett is over 7 seconds ahead of Lewis Manley, who was 1.2 ahead of Callum Cripps. This is the closest battle on track. Chris Wilson in 4th, Ben Bennyworth in 5th, and there's Martin Buchan in 6th spot. There's less than a second between the 3 of them. And then it's nearly 11 seconds further back to Adam Christopher. Adam Christopher is lapping significantly quicker than these 3, but barring mistakes, he's not going to catch them in 8 laps. He needs to take out about 1.5 seconds a lap. He's going quick, not going that quick. Mistake from Wilson coming out of Hawthorne, and that is the only excuse that Ben Bennyworth needs to get up into 4th place. Wilson trying to fight back though. Bennyworth has gone a bit wide coming through the exits. They come through Sheen Curve. Here is Wilson. Nice bit of driving through Dingle Dell. Bennyworth goes down to the grass, and that allows Ben Buchan to go through. And Bennyworth goes from 5th to 4th to 5th to 6th in the space of about 3 corners. It's a tight one to go side by side through Sheen Curve. It's kind of a one-line corner, and it's inevitable that someone, one way or the other, is going to come to grief. And now Martin Buchan starting to have a chance to take a move for 4th place, right on the back of Wilson. They complete lap 8. Had to go wide into paddock. He'll want to take a nice lake apex, get back on the drive down the hill and try and get the inside line into Druids, and he may well do it because Wilson's run wide. Buchan goes a super aggressive line. Wilson just gets the door shut in time, and Buchan has to go wide. Tries the old wheel of death around the outside, can't quite do it. This is the battle for 4th place. And Buchan, you can see how eager Buchan is to get back on the power. It might give Bennyworth a chance to come back at him. And here is Ben Bennyworth, who has got the best seat in the house at the moment, looking ahead to Buchan and Wilson ahead of him. Oh, just watching Chris Wilson come through all and right on the limit and doing everything he can to block Buchan. It's right on the limit as Buchan managed to get himself inside line, taking to the grass to try and find a gap. This battle is building up nicely in the midfield between Wilson, Buchan and Bennyworth, 4th, 5th and 6th. Through Sheen, down to Sterling's. No change to the front three. Luke Bennett well clear. Lewis Manley's about 1.5 seconds of Callum Cripps. This is very much where the action is at the moment. And you know what? I made the point about Adam Christopher not catching up quick enough. Well, he is now. Because I'm looking at the lap times as they come through now. Wilson and Buchan and Bennyworth are in the 1:31s. And Adam Christopher, I think, has come through and done a 28. He's only about 6 seconds behind now. You might just about see him in the background. Not quite. But with 6 laps to go, and this lot swabbling among themselves, it is not actually at the question that Adam Christopher in the soft tyre may get involved in this fight when we get to the last lap or two. Adam Christopher is flying. He's taken half a second out of Ben Bennyworth in the first sector of this lap alone. He could get back involved in this. What a recovery that would be for Adam Christopher. What a great day he's been having before that nasty incident that happened to him at the start of the first lap. Dust, Wilson on the limit once again. Bennyworth yet again taking a bit too much grab. We see him do it so often. He puts two wheels on the ground outside so many corners. Oh, big bit of, oh goodness me. Martin Buchan fighting that like a bucking bronco. It's all over the place. Good Wilson clearing, now Bennyworth coming back into play. Not the car control that we were accustomed to seeing from Martin Buchan. They come down to clearways once again to complete lap. This has been complete lap 10 because Luke Bennett's already crossed the line to start lap 11. Now Adam Christopher's, well, he's taken 5 tenths out of Bennyworth in the first sector of this lap, 6 tenths in the second sector. He's still going, I think, in the 28s. Didn't get a lap time for a while. He's done a 29.0, 1.3 seconds quicker than Bennyworth last time round. If he keeps up that pace, he'll be on this group as we get onto the last lap. Just to add an extra little bit of a dimension to this fight. Bennett, Manley and Cripps still ahead of the top three. Wilson, Buchan, Bennyworth, then Christopher, and then further back Tyler and Spooner. Lap 11 of 15. Down Pilgrim's Drop, up the rise, into Hawthorne. Once again, and Martin Buchan what's he seen quick through the Westfield section, but then maybe he's a little bit too eager and just getting on the power again as they come through Dingle Dell. See the car just getting a little bit out of shape as he came through Sheen Curve into Sterling once again. Big bit of push here on one of these on the hybrid, perhaps. Down to clearways once more. They'll have 4 laps to go as they cross the line this time. Onto lap 12, up the hill they come again to Druids. Right onto the outside Buchan, he's desperate to get through. But he can't leave. I'm sure Ben Bennyworth won't want a second invitation to try and get through himself. Adam Christopher was only half a second quicker that time round. His lap time's dropped into the mid-29s. I wonder if the soft tyre is starting to work against him. He's still got more than 4 seconds to find to get onto the back of Ben Bennyworth. Through they come on the GP loop. Very, very defensive line that from Chris Wilson. Gives a chance for Buchan to get on the inside. It's worked. There was a very, very, almost maybe too defensive, and it's resulted in Buchan a little bit of contact. It's put Wilson out onto the grass. Oh, that's a very debatable move there. Wilson's gone right off at Sheen Curve. Buchan goes through. I think that's one the stewards are going to have a look at because... Oh, Buchan's gone round. Buchan's gone round to Sterling's there. I don't know if there's any contact with Bennyworth. It didn't look like it, but then Buchan's gone round himself out of Sterling's. Bennyworth is 4th. Adam Christopher now finds himself in 5th place. And Buchan and Wilson both go off in the space of 2 corners. If the first move was debatable, the second one was just mystifying. Here's the championship contenders. We've not seen them for a while because there's not really been much to report because the gap's a little bit smaller. It's down under a second for the first time since the first couple of laps of the race. There are 3 laps to go, including the one that they're on. We're on lap 13 now out of 15. Callum Cripps is looking ahead at him, literally, at the championship, because he will win the championship if he finishes ahead of Manley in this race. Otherwise, he's going to go to a decider. As it stands, Cripps will have a 10-point advantage to play with, which means that, by my calculations, not considering any countback, 5th place would be enough, even if Manley won the race. The problem is, Manley might find it difficult to win the race with Luke Bennett about. Cripps in a very, very strong position. We'll have a look at Wilson and Buchan again, because I think Buchan's right behind and coming through Hawthorn. I'm sure the stewards will be looking at that move on the previous lap very closely. There's Wilson up going very defensive line again. This time he's wide strip from Buchan, and Buchan's forced to go onto the outside. Hope we don't see any retribution. Very calm, nose to tail. Through Sterling's. Luke Bennett already onto his penultimate lap. His lead is 11 seconds. 8/10 clear of Callum Cripps. Ben Bennyworth now finds for lonely 4th. Adam Christopher benefiting from the chaos behind him to move back into 5th. And then this is the big battle on track between the recovering Wilson and Buchan for 6th place. Then Tyler and Spooner towards the back. 2 laps to go, including this one. Keep an eye on this. We should also have a look at Adam Christopher on good form here. He's on the back of Ben Bennyworth now. Took me a second out of it last time around. Maybe there was a bit more of life in those soft tyres than we thought. Or maybe Ben Bennyworth made a mistake somewhere. They've got less than a lap and a half to go. And I'm thinking that Adam Christopher may be able to get on the back of him, but he's going to struggle to find somewhere to make a pass. Luke Bennett has already crossed the line to start the last lap. There is Manley and Cripps. Realistically, looking at the points, I think Lewis Manley in the current position would have to win race 3 to have any realistic chance of stopping Callum Cripps, because if Manley was 2nd in race 3 and Callum Cripps was last, I think it would be a tie and it would go to countback, and I think that rotation is fairly unlikely. Buchan's having another look at Wilson now as we go back to the battle for 6th and 7th. They're just starting their last lap. Luke Bennett's already onto the GP loop. Defensive line from Wilson. Will it again prove to be too defensive? Take quite a lot of curb. Buchan lets it run wide. Once around the back of him, but he can be forced to think outside for Druids. And curling the other, big turn in of him. He almost managed to get clear of him and just goes too wide and can't manage to hold on to the line that he needs for Graham Hill. Buchan looks determined to get past. Wilson doing everything he can to keep the Scottish driver behind. Luke Bennett, meanwhile, is already coming through clearways. It's going to be back-to-back wins for the BMW as he comes through the final corner. Luke Bennett takes the win, you can see in your picture-in-picture screen there. And we'll wait for the others to come through. We've got 3 pairs that we're waiting for. Manley and Cripps, then Bennyworth and Christopher, and then here Wilson and Bucker, which I think is the tightest battle. Lewis Manley did finish second, so he's going to keep the championship battle alive to the final round, but it's match point Cripps by taking that 3rd place. He takes a 10-point lead into the finale with a maximum of 13 effectively to play for. Look how close Adam Christopher is to Ben Bennyworth as they come across the line, only a couple of car lengths in it in the end. Good recovery for Adam Christopher, nearly getting 4th place. And then we wait for Wilson and Buchan, and I think Chris Wilson has done enough. I don't know whether there's anything the stewards want to look at. He's gone quite wide, but I think he's done just enough, and he's going to get across the line about 2 car lengths ahead of Martin Buchan, and then it'll be Michael Tyler and Max Spooner will round out the field. And so another dominant win for Luke Bennett from Lewis Manley, Callum Cripps, Ben Bennyworth, Adam Christopher, Chris Wilson, Martin Buchan, Michael Tyler and Max Spooner. And to confirm, that means that Callum Cripps leads Lewis Manley by 10 points going into our final race. And that means that a top 5 finish will guarantee Callum Cripps the championship. And that's assuming that Lewis Manley wins the race. If Lewis Manley finishes second, then Callum Cripps, we would go to a tie and count back if Callum Cripps was last, otherwise 8th place would be enough. And if Lewis Manley doesn't finish first or second, then there's nothing he can do, and Callum Cripps will be the champion. So Callum Cripps in a very, very strong position. The championship decider of the Simply Race Touring Car Championship 2022-2023 is coming up shortly. Stay with us. the 21st and final race, and it all comes down to this. The final round of the 2022-23 Simply Race Touring Car Championship around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Callum Cripps in a good position to win the championship, but Lewis Manley may be able to capitalise and snatch it from him should Cripps slip up. My name's Dan McCalla. Thank you very much for joining us once again. If you've been with us throughout the day and throughout the Alpines as well this morning. The draw for the reverse grid was done by yours truly. I drew out number 8, which Max Spooner wasn't happy with because it's the only number that did not result in him getting a pole position, as we only have 9 cars. Martin Buchan was given a 1-place penalty because of that incident he had with Chris Wilson in race 2. That's dropped him from 7th to 8th, but he does benefit from that because it means he's actually on pole position instead of 2nd for this reverse grid race. It's Martin Buchan and Michael Tyler on the front row. Chris Wilson and Adam Christopher on row 2, Ben Bennyworth and Callum Cripps on row 3, Cripps is 6th, then Lewis Manley 7th, then Luke Bennett, who's dominated both races so far, and then Max Spooner bringing up the rear in 9th. So, the important championship permutations, Callum Cripps leads by 10 points from Lewis Manley going into this final round. That means even if Lewis Manley was to win the race, 5th place would be enough for Cripps to win the championship. If Lewis Manley finishes 2nd, then Callum Cripps just needs to finish in the top 8, just needs to avoid finishing last. If Manley won and Cripps was 6th, or Manley is 2nd and Cripps is 9th, then we'd end up with a tie in a countback situation, and then we'll have to wait and do a bit of number crunching and find out. I think Callum Cripps would probably have the advantage if it came to countback. Realistically, however, Lewis Manley has to try and win this race to have any realistic chance of winning this championship. Otherwise, it will be Callum Cripps retaining his title. We have a YouTube chat poll going. Who do you think is going to win the championship? Please do vote on that. And also don't forget that the racing action doesn't stop at Simply Race. Coming up very, very soon, the start of the Simply Race Endurance Series that's going to run through the year. I'm looking forward to joining you all for that. And we hope to be seeing you over live and on demand on YouTube as well. So, a characteristically swift warm-up lap by Martin Buchan, as we've been so used to seeing over the last few months in both categories, as he brings the field to the grid for the final time this season. So the order from the start is Buchan, Tyler, Wilson, Christopher, Bennyworth, Cripps, Manley, Bennett, Spooner. 15 laps of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. It's the 21st and final race of the season. Buchan, Tyler, Wilson, Cripps and Manley are all on the soft option tyre. That may come into play. The cars are all lined up. We're ready to go. The final race of the season begins now. Good size effect from Buchan. Adam Christopher looks like he's moving well from 4th. Cripps and Manley are side by side in 6th and 7th. They're all just getting boxed in a little bit. Manley's going to come through on Cripps there. Cripps going around the outside of him a bit further back, but it is Buchan in the lead. It's Wilson in 2nd. Christopher's up to 3rd. Then Bennyworth and Michael Tyler. Oh, Manley just had to get out of it, and Cripps is ahead of Manley exactly where he wanted to be. Looks like he might be able to get past Michael Tyler as well as they come down to Graham Mill for the first time. Wilson making a major challenge to Buchan. No love lost there after their battles in race 2. Adam Christopher's coming in to join the fun as well. Looks like we might get a proper race 3. Adam Christopher's gone around the outside of at least one. There was contact between Wilson and Christopher. I think Christopher's going to get sent wide. He's just about gathered it up. Has he got enough grip? He has. And this collision sideswipe Buchan as he comes through into the lead. Fantastic first lap. But Adam Christopher, who started, what, 6th, is suddenly leading. What a first lap. What a day he's had, having already won the Alpine title today. So we got Christopher, then Buchan. Oh, Buchan and Wilson contact the Hawthorn. They're both off. They both go off. They're going to come back onto the track, and they've avoided everybody avoiding action by the championship contenders as Buchan tries to resume. And it's almost as if Chris Wilson and Martin Buchan have been magnetic today. Luke Bennett's fallen back behind Lewis Manley as a result as he tries to battle through the field and complete his hat-trick of wins. And Callum Cripps, after all that, has found himself in 2nd place. What a bizarre first lap. So it's Christopher, Cripps, Bennyworth, Tyler, then Wilson, then Manley and Bennett, and then Max Spooner, and then the recovering Martin Buchan. Well, we've had first 2 races today, maybe a little bit more processional than we're used to, but what an absolute barnstorming opening lap of race 3, just as we normally expect from the reverse grid. Adam Christopher 6th to 1st. Callum Cripps goes from what, 7th to 2nd? Monstering the curb there, Chris Wilson. He's in 4th spot. Lewis Manley coming up the inside of Michael Tyler. He knows he's got to work his way through the field, particularly with Cripps ahead. All he can do is get himself to the front. Callum Cripps, 5th place or better, will give him the championship even if Lewis Manley wins the race. Cripps in the box seats. Absolutely bananas first lap that was. As they head back out onto the GP loop for the second time out of 15. Max Spooner on the grass, just coming out of Surtees there. Grass being kicked up, Manley on the grass. That just shows just how hard he's pushing. He has no choice but to go for it if he wants to have any chance of winning this championship. Through Sheen Curve back up towards Stirling's. We're looking at Bennyworth and Wilson. Has to fight for third place. Lewis Manley taking increasing interest from behind. A few clearways to complete lap 2. Wilson and Manley both on the option tyre, the soft tyre in this race. Bennyworth isn't. Big lunge from nearly from the next postcode that was. That wasn't even in Kent, that was from somewhere in East Sussex. Wilson just nudges out Bennyworth and that allows Lewis Manley to come through as well. Wilson up to 3rd and Manley 4th now. And Ben Bennyworth is shuffled back into 5th. Manley will have a go at Wilson surely. Very, very soon. He can't afford not to. See how much grass he's taking, just trying to get every apex absolutely right. But he will be relying on an error from Callum Cripps as well, who's right on the back of Adam Christopher. Adam Christopher was driving without risk to secure the Alpine title this morning. I imagine Callum Cripps will be thinking the same. If Manley comes up the inside of him later in the race, I can't imagine that Callum Cripps is going to fight it too hard. Christopher, Cripps, Wilson Manley, Bennyworth, and now Luke Bennett in that BMW. 2 purple sectors. He's really starting to get his times up now, as he hopes to take that hat-trick, the Pro Team Redline driver. End of lap 3. What's the gap between Cripps in 2nd, Wilson in 3rd? It's 1 second. It's not that big a gap at all. There's a lap times last time around. Christopher 29.0, Cripps 29.2, Wilson 29.3, Manley 29.3, Bennyworth 30.7 because of that being shuffled back and everything at the start of the lap. Luke Bennett really getting on now with the fastest lap of the race at 28.4 as we go on to lap 4. Under the bridge, down Pilgrim's Drop, and then up into Hawthorns once again. Bennyworth Christopher on the grass. Manley having to take a bit of corrective action as well. It's a small but very high caliber field that we've got for this final round here, and you can see just how hard these very accomplished drivers are pushing. What we may be lacking maybe a little bit in entertainment today, this race accepted, is being made up for with some very, very fast and competitive driving. Round to complete lap 4. Wilson is increasingly closing in on Cripps. And Christopher leading by 3/4 of a second now. And there's only, just over 3 seconds between the top 6. And I'm sure Luke Bennett will want to start working his way through. So I think we will see some action over the next couple of laps unfold. Luke Bennett hasn't really had to race anybody so far. He took pole position and then drove away from the field both times in races 1 and 2. I'm trying to think. I think Callum Cripps is the only driver who's taken a hat-trick this season. I'm just looking at the points. Yes, he did. He had 3 wins here on the Brands Hatch Indy circuit in the second round of the season, all the way back in September. That's the only time this season that anybody has won all 3 races at the same round. Adam Christopher had a double win in the Alpines but certainly in terms of doing the hat-trick in the touring cars, only Cripps has managed it this season. We're on board with Luke Bennett, who he's in 6th place, and he can see the lead in front of him. He's got more than half of his competition in front of him in his windscreen. Still just over 3 seconds separating 1st from 6th. I think the most likely place for a move in the short term, I think, is going to be Lewis Manley on Chris Wilson as they come through clearways. This is for 3rd. They're both on the soft tyre. Manley goes for the wider line, the late turn in. Wilson does take a very, very aggressive run on the curbs. Loses a bit of traction result. Has to go very, very defensive. Another traditional Chris Wilson chop. Manley getting trying to run around the outside. Leaving just enough room. There's a bit of rubbing in contact. Don't think anything wrong there. And Wilson makes a robust, but I think fair defence of that 3rd place for the time being. Meanwhile, Luke Bennett's right on the back of Ben Bennyworth now. You can see in the background, we go on board with Luke Bennett. Benny and Bennett. Almost a little bit of contact. They come through Surtees. What a great view he's got, not over his own battle, but of the one ahead as well. Christopher, Cripps, Wilson, Manley, Bennyworth, Bennett, 2.8 seconds in the top 6. And here comes Bennett. You'd think he's probably on the hybrid there, given the sudden sort of straight line advantage he's got. And he makes a nice, sensible move into Hawthorn, and Luke Bennett is up into 5th place. Adam Christopher, it was a broken pedal, which is why he had that sudden off on the first lap of race 2 when he suddenly went off the Drew. We heard an audible bang from our commentary position here, and that's why I think he did a good job to recover as well as he did, and he might be on course to make amends, and Randolph's been a great day for him if he can take a win in race 3. Bit of contact between Wilson and Manley, trying to go around the outside into clearways. Nothing doing there. This is an obstacle that Lewis Manley, with 9 laps to go, must navigate to have any chance of winning this championship. Wilson defensive line once again, and look how quickly that's brought Luke Bennett into play. And now Manley's got a bigger problem because Luke Bennett is right behind him. Ben Bennyworth has lost touch a bit, just ran wide out of Graham Hill Bend. He's just dropped back a bit from the 3 in front. Wilson, Manley, and Bennett, nose to tail, 3rd, 4th and 5th on lap 7 out of 15. And Manley might just have to have a go at anyway, because he's in a bit of a situation of eat or be eaten. Because if he doesn't have a go at Wilson soon and make a move stick, Luke Bennett's going to have him. Not helping either with Callum Cripps, now nearly 2 seconds up the road from this group. He just saw on the bottom of your picture there, come to Sterling's once again. Manley's desperate to get past. He's absolutely ditching to get past Chris Wilson as soon as he can. I think there's probably going to be a move one way or the other coming through here in Paddock and Druids. I think it's all going to go off within these next few corners. Wilson defensive. Manley going round to the outside. If he doesn't get the line right and he's blocked from taking the apex into Paddock, it could leave him vulnerable to Bennett as they start lap 8. Bennett from a long, long way back. Almost a bit of contact. Wilson, I don't think Wilson can shut the door. This is Manley's chance. This is the one chance he might get. I think Bennett's going to be opportunistic as well. A little bit of a bump from Bennett on the back of Wilson. Wilson monstering the curves, but Manley is through. It was probably his last chance to get it done. He's got it done. I've just seen Martin Buchan recovering, passing Max Spooner into Paddock. So Buchan's back up into 8th place. Oh, nearly an off from Bennett. Nearly an off from Bennett, pushing that hard. And not able to make up any ground beyond that 5th place. So Manley up to 3rd, but 2.5 seconds up the road. We're on board with Lewis Manley now. 2.5 seconds up the road is Callum Cripps, and then Adam Christopher in the lead. All he can do is get himself into that winning position, hope that Cripps makes a mistake. If Manley wins the race, 5th place is, or better, is still enough for Cripps to win the championship. So Adam Christopher leads from Cripps, then it's 2.7 seconds back to Manley. Then here's Wilson and Bennett 4th and 5th. Bennyworth in the background in 6th. Then you go back to Tyler, and now, as we said, Martin Buchan is ahead of Max Spooner. And you see him there in the picture-in-picture just coming through Hawthorn. Buchan in 8th place. Oh, big moment for Bennett. Bennett's lost it, he's lost it. Didn't take him out. And Luke Bennett is off at clearways. Just pushing the rear wheel drive a little bit too hard, resuming sixth, probably just ahead of Michael Tyler. I think Tyler might have the speed and might just get through with him, at least temporarily. He does. And a rare mistake from Luke Bennett, and I think that is the end of his hopes of sealing that hat trick. Wilson and Bennyworth now left to fight over 4th and 5th place. Bennyworth on the grass again. We go back to your champion-elect, as he is at this stage, who is now right on the back of Adam Christopher. Manley, and then the chasers you can see in the background there. We're into the second half of this championship finale, lap 9 of 15. Down towards clearways, we're looking at the battle for the lead. I think Luke Bennett is about to recover past Michael Tyler. Who I don't think is going to try and defend too robustly from the man that on raw pace has been the class of the field today. And I think we'll see Bennett probably come through here into paddock. Yes, we will. Luke Bennett back into 6th spot, but now 9.5 seconds down the road from Ben Bennyworth. We've got nose to tail 1st and 2nd. We've got nose to tail 4th and 5th with 6 laps to go. We go back to the leaders. Cripps doing everything he needs to do, and last time round Cripps and Manley did exactly the same lap time to the same thousandth of a second, 1:29.760. So the gap is remaining static around the 2.5-3 second mark, and Lewis Manley is not going to get the points he needs. If he finishes in 3rd place, it doesn't matter where Cripps finishes, the championship would be his. The only way now would be if Cripps had a huge error, ended up finishing last, Manley be promoted to 2nd, and then we'd go to count back. Realistically, at this stage, with just over 5 laps left, it's only going to be an off by Cripps or a collision between Cripps and Christopher that will allow Manley to win the race, is the only realistic possibility of the championship going the way of the Toyota driver. With 5 laps of the season remaining. Seeing some superb action going all the way back to that very first round on August bank holiday weekend at Donington. Into Brands, we had Thruxton, which was dry for the touring cars, but very wet for the Alpine. That was extremely challenging. Then Alton Park, Croft, Knock Hill, and then here, and we have seen some very, very good driving, some very good racing. A few incidents, it has to be said, but it has been another great season, and a tribute has to be paid to all the guys at Simple Race, to Grant, to Dane, to Gordy, and everybody else that has helped organise the championship and put it together, and bring in some really high caliber drivers. And certainly for me, sort of joining as a commentary, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to sit here and watch these great racers do their stuff. The mindset, it'd be interesting to know the sort of the thought processes of these two at the front at the moment, because Cripps doesn't need to risk anything instead of winning the championship. Adam Christopher will know this. He's also trying to get maximum points himself to try and overhaul Ben Bennyworth, and at the moment actually he is. Actually, just looking at the points and everything and the drop scores, Adam Christopher's 1st at the moment, and with Ben Bennyworth only 5th, that would be just enough, I think, for Adam Christopher to pinch 3rd place in the championship. If Christopher won and Bennyworth was 4th, I think they'd be tied on points. I think it's a 7-point advantage for Bennyworth going into this final race once the drop scores are taken into account. So Bennyworth needs to try and get past Wilson. That could be decisive as far as 3rd place in the championship is concerned. So there is very much something for Adam Christopher to race for here. He was asking me about the points before the race started, so it is something he's aware of. So there is still, as we head into the last 4 laps of this championship finale, there is still something at play. The gap's come out a bit now, just come out to 7/10 of a second. Remembering that Callum Cripps is on the soft tyre for this race. Adam Christopher isn't, because he used it in race 2. Gap to Manley's come down, between Cripps and Manley's come down slightly. It's around about the 2-second mark now, but I don't think really there's much more Lewis Manley can do. I think, to be honest, at this stage, with 3.5 laps to go, he's just waiting on a miracle. We go on board with Lewis Manley now. Who's driven a good race, has to be said. He has given it all he can. There is always an element of luck involved in picking the right time and the right battles and everything when you're trying to pick your way through the field in a reverse grid race. He certainly picked the right time to get past Chris Wilson when he had Luke Bennett breathing down his neck. It was the right thing to do, but ultimately just left us with a bit too much work to do and trying to progress. Michael Tyler, I can see, has dropped to the back of the field, so I think he's had a spin somewhere. Buchan and Spooner have both moved ahead of him into 7th and 8th places, so obviously a bit of a coming to grief there. Well, one thing Wilson and Bennyworth have got to be aware of is Luke Bennett, because he's 5 seconds behind and he was over 2 seconds quicker than them on the last lap. So as it's on the current pace, Luke Bennett will catch these two on the final lap. So still plenty to watch out for. Christopher Cripps Manley looking fairly settled. So fastest lap of the race, that by Luke Bennett at 28.3. Bennyworth and Wilson both in the mid 1 minute 30s. So that gap is coming down, another few tenths out in the first sector. I think it's in the middle part of the lap where he's benefiting. With 2.5 laps to go. This middle sector will be interesting to see about Wilson, Bennyworth and Bennett splits, just to see if that gap's continuing to come down quick enough. 41.0 middle sector for Wilson. 40.2 for Bennett. That middle sector alone, 8/10 quicker. Just see him in the background there, you might think he's barely in sight with 2 laps to go, but he is lapping much, much quicker than him, than anybody else on the track as we head on to the penultimate lap of the season. Callum Cripps, 8/10 behind Adam Christopher, doing what he should, keeping him honest, but not taking any big risks as he closes in on another championship title. Okay, 14, Spooner and Tyler in 8th place, a nose to tail. Chance then to have a bit of a fight towards the end of the race at the back of the field. And it's pretty much the closest battle on track at the moment. Christopher and Cripps and Manley are just coming through Sterling's now for the penultimate time. Oh, almost a move there from Spooner's gone wide. That might give Michael Tyler an opportunity to go through. You see Callum Cripps starting his last lap on the picture-in-picture now. 1 lap away from retaining his championship. Tyler's gone off onto the grass. Very awkward line now. They're going to have Spooner to come back into play. Good chance of a bit of a battle at the back. As we come to the end of the season, they'll be enjoying it. So I can say that for certain. We'll let you know how that one finishes. We're going to go back to the leaders who are now well on to their final lap. There is Callum Cripps, half a lap away from retaining his championship title. There is Lewis Manley behind him, who's done a really good job this year. He's driven some very, very good races. And has in a championship that a lot of people at the start of the season thought that Callum Cripps might dominate. Manley's done a very good job of keeping him honest. Adam Christopher started the day well with the Alpine Cup win and has bounced back from that pedal bomb in race 2, and it looks like he's going to get a very well-deserved win in race 2 after a barnstorming first lap. But it's going to be the man you're on board with. There he is in second place, Callum Cripps, the Brabham car number 1, who is going to be a champion for 2022-23. Here they come through the final corner. So the race win goes to Adam Christopher, running out a great day for him. But congratulations, the 2022-23 Simply Race Touring Car Champion is Callum Cripps. Congratulations to him. Lewis Manley finishes 3rd in the race and a worthy runner-up in the championship standings. And we wait for the fight for 4th to come through. Wilson has just finished ahead of Bennyworth, and Luke Bennett was right behind them by the end of the race in 6th, less than a second between them. And with Bennyworth only 5th, by our calculations, that means Adam Christopher's win means he has snatched 3rd place in the championship, and Callum Cripps gives us some celebratory donuts after another well-deserved championship title. And nearly runs into Ben Bennyworth in the process. And I think it has to be said that that attempt at donuts is probably the worst thing that Callum Cripps has done on track all season. And I don't think he'll mind me saying that. They weren't the best donuts in the world. It's not quite Alex Zanardi, Chip Ganassi IndyCar level, but a very deserved championship victory. So just to round out the final results of the final round of the season, Adam Christopher winning from Callum Cripps. Lewis Manley was 3rd. Then it was Chris Wilson, Ben Bennyworth, Luke Bennett, Martin Buck and Michael Toller finished just ahead of Max Spooner in the end of that battle towards the back of the field. That's better. That's much, much better now. So, thank you all very much for joining us here at Simply Race throughout today and throughout the season for the Simply Race Touring Car Championship and the Simply Race Alpine Cup. Don't forget, if you want to watch any of the best races this season, they're all available on demand on the YouTube page. So, if you're stuck at home on a wet Wednesday night, you need something to watch, you know where to find it. But don't forget, very, very shortly, we will have the new Simply Race Endurance Series. Some fantastic level drivers are coming. It's going to be, it looks like a full grid for some great sports car racing. But until then, my name's Dan McCalla. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you all here at Simply Race very soon.